Okay.
Okay.
You good?
Okay, we're rolling now, yeah.
Okay, so First Minister, do you believe that this variant has arrived in Northern Ireland?
Well, today in the Assembly Chamber, the Minister of Health said that we should assume that this variant is in Northern Ireland. We have found 4 positive test cases which showed up a different sequencing, if you like, and those have been sent to England for analysis. But I think we should recognise that there's every possibility it is here. If that is the case, we should double down then on the basics of social distancing, of keeping our hands clean, and indeed cutting down on our social contacts as well.
How worried or how concerned are you that we could see this variant here?
Well, it's concerning insofar as it's very infectious. It doesn't change the severity of COVID when you have COVID, and it appears that the vaccine still continues to work as well. That's what we're being told at present. So the concern is around the impact it would have on the R number, that transmissibility, if you like, of the disease, and of course that can lead to more hospital admissions, and of course we know that our hospitals are already under incredible pressure.
Given all of that, you'll have heard the calls for a travel ban to be brought in, GBNI. Do you agree with that? Surely there's sense there.
Well, there's already a travel ban, as you know, from Tier 4 in England, so those areas around London and the South East, you're not allowed to travel anywhere else in the UK indeed, or outside of Tier 4, and those people who were going to travel to Tier 4 areas should not now travel because that is in place in law. In terms of the other levels, we're saying very clearly that you should only travel if it is essential, because as you know, last night we took the very difficult decision to cut down the number of days when family can come together at Christmas. So now we're only saying Christmas Day only, unless you work on Christmas Day, and if you work on Christmas Day, then you can come together on another day, such as Boxing Day.
But you know that flights are arriving in from the airports in the south of England, and they are spilling out passengers. So people clearly aren't listening to the advice that they're being given. There's no law against them arriving here in Northern Ireland, no matter what's going on in England. Would it not make more sense to stop it now, to close the door down?
Well, first of all, there is a law against it. You're not allowed to leave the Tier 4 area, so it is an offence if you do that from the point of departure. And also, those people who are coming through those airports are allowed to transit through those airports. So people coming perhaps through London are coming from even the north of England and transiting through into Northern Ireland. That is allowed at present. So we should look at the risk always in relation to all of this, and the risk is in the Tier 4 area, and that is why that decision has been taken.
You know that the Irish government has brought in a travel ban, so the temptation will be that people will use Northern Ireland as the back door, the Dublin Dodge, if you like, in reverse. Surely there should be an attempt to stop that. Well,
absolutely. There should be very clear messaging around personal responsibility, and I've heard from a lot of people today who were planning to come home for Christmas and they have now decided not to do that. I think that is commendable, given that they know the risk that they are posing to their family and friends, and they know that it's against the law if they live in Tier 4.
What would you say to those that would say the reason why you have taken this decision is because you're a unionist, that this is ideological, it's political, it's not really what's best for the people of Northern Ireland?
Well, I think it's very important that we hear the public health advice on all of this, and of course we're awaiting a paper from the Health Minister to tell us what that public health advice is, although from the Chief Scientific Officer and the Chief Medical Advisor last night they were indicating that the risk in terms of people travelling into Northern Ireland was small in nature compared to other things that we should be doing to deal with COVID-19. So if it's small in nature, you have to level that up against the proportionality argument. In other words, what harm is it going to do if we stop people travelling into Northern Ireland? And of course we have to consider all of those issues, because the other issue is around the supply chain. It is around making sure that we do have all of the supplies to come into Northern Ireland, because we are at the end of a long supply chain, and I had a meeting with the Prime Minister today around some of the difficulties that are currently happening on the short straits, in other words from Dover to Calais at present, and we're hoping that there will be a resolution in relation to that in the coming days.
You know the Executive is divided about this. Sinn Féin wants this ban in right away. can there be an agreement found?
Well, I think that we're all agreed that there has to be a paper from the Health Minister in relation to the health risks. There also needs to be some very clear advice from our Attorney General in relation to the competencies issue, because if you close down airports and ports, there are a whole range of issues around contractual issues, around compensation, who's going to pay for that to happen, and as I've said, there'll be concerns about supply chains as well. So all of those issues have to be taken into account. For some people it may seem like a simple thing to do, but actually if I was standing here talking about the travel ban, you would rightly be asking me about all of those other issues.
What about when we're going to know? When will there be an answer? Because really time is running out. People are making arrangements now. Yes,
people are making arrangements, and I've said there are a lot of people who are making the correct arrangements and saying that no, we're going to stay apart this Christmas. I absolutely realise that that is a big call for many people who want to see their parents, who want to see their grandparents, but they've decided to stay away because they believe it's the best way to go in terms of this new variant, which is concerning, particularly in Tier 4 areas of England. So people are taking decisions, and I think that that is absolutely the right thing to do. We await, as I've said, the Attorney General's recommendations, some advice from the Departmental Solicitor's Office on contractual issues, and of course the recommendation from the Department of Health.
So could that be today, tonight?
It could well be tonight, and when those papers arrive we will have an executive and discuss those matters, but of course we have a scheduled executive first thing in the morning in any event.
What about Christmas bubbling? Because you'll be aware that people will be absolutely heartbroken that their Christmas arrangements are now really dashed. They've only got one day. What would you say to people who are absolutely floored by this?
Yeah, well, look, we arranged a social contract with people a couple of weeks ago because we felt it was the right thing to do, to give people advance notice of what they were able to do at Christmas, to give them some hope, to allow people to come together at Christmas, and that was something we did across the United Kingdom. And unfortunately, with the way in which the virus has been spreading, the fact of this new variant, you will have seen England, Scotland and Wales take decisions to pull it down to one day, and we've had to do exactly the same based on our medical advisors. But you know, we also wanted to recognise that there were people who work on Christmas Day, and we have said we understand if you are working on Christmas Day, you should have the ability to come together on Boxing Day or on another day around Christmas.
And what about the people that will simply say this is too high a price to pay, I'm going to ignore this and I'm going to carry on with the arrangements that I had made?
Well, they should know that it's in law in relation to one day of coming together, so if they are ignoring it, they are breaking the law. I'm not suggesting for a second that somebody's going to be knocking their door on Christmas Day or Boxing Day, but I am appealing to them to do what's right for your family, to do what's right for you and your neighbourhood, and to try and cut down the social contacts, because by doing that, you're stopping the transmission of this virus.
And what about this question of enforcement, really about the Christmas bubbling, even the travel ban, that, you know, when you're making these decisions, and as you say in some cases making them legal requirements, who's going to enforce all this?
So we're continuing the conversation with the police service. We understand that this is incredibly difficult, and we also are talking to the Justice Minister about what she thinks is doable and not doable, and we'll continue with those conversations. This is not something that we alone are facing. Of course, people across the United Kingdom are facing similar issues, and you will have seen Police Scotland, for example, saying that they're not going to stop people on the border between Scotland and England, but they will have an increased police presence to try and alert people to the fact that they should show personal responsibility and they should not be travelling at this time.
What if Boris Johnson comes out and says, okay, I've looked at the information, I've looked at the modelling, my decision is that we're going to close down the airports and the ports? Would you then take similar action in Northern Ireland?
It's not a case of following what Boris has to do, it's a case of looking at what impact it would have on Northern Ireland if we close the ports and airports today. It's a very simplified and simplistic perhaps thing to say, let's just close Northern Ireland off. But that has ramifications, Tracy, and as the First Minister I have to take all of those issues into account as well. I've always tried to be proportionate and balanced in everything that we've done throughout this crisis, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Perfect. And that was quite long.